Hello everyone. In this video you're going to see me perform where I'm currently at with my front lever row progressions for my force negative reps. So I've got a little bit of a platform for support at the end of my feet. As you can see, I'm going to be using that later. But for my first rep, I'm strong enough to pull myself up most of the way in this tuck row position. So I'm just making sure that I'm not swinging too much. And then you'll see there that my initial movement is driving my hands down towards my hips. And this is really important because the further your hands are towards your hips in relative space, the harder a row becomes. So because we want to start off in the most difficult position that we can handle, your first action should be driving your hands down towards your hips, whether you're using a TRX suspension, whether you're using a barbell in a rack, whether your feet are on the floor, whether you're more of like a 45-degree angle to the floor compared to the parallel angle that I am here. Wherever you are in your front lever row progressions, your first action should always be to drive your hands down towards your hips and then start pulling. Okay, because we know that we can manipulate it throughout the exercise to ensure that you can still move through the full range of motion of the row. We're not saying you have to keep those hands in the position that you started, but we're starting from our most difficult position. You're pulling, then once you reach that first checkpoint of our 10 checkpoints throughout the concentric, you're adjusting, and that adjustment could look like maybe walking your feet back, or in my case here, bringing one foot down to the platform, or it could look like bringing your hands up further towards your armpits to make it slightly easier. So you can see that I gradually start to pull myself through the reps, still making the exercise as hard as possible. So I'm working at 100% of my row capacity here. And you'll see that my hands have moved up towards my armpits throughout the movement, away from my wrists. So I had that initial difficulty of driving my wrist down towards the hips and starting in the most difficult position for me. Then throughout the concentric portion of the lift, I've used that 10 checkpoint approach to the concentric portion, where in this instance, I'm pulling, I can maybe get up an inch, and then I hit a static hold, because the amount of force required for the lift is above my 100% row capacity. So then I hit a static hold position because gravity is working against my strength capacity, and it creates this bit of a stalemate where I'm in a static hold. But we know that the overall objective is to pull myself right to the top, right? So what we then do is manipulate the position of the body to enable me, my strength capacity, to more accurately match the force required to pull myself through the lift. And the way I do that is by getting to that static hold position, reassessing, I'm at my checkpoint. How do I ensure that I continue moving through the lift at a controlled pace? My hands come up further towards my armpits. Then I pull up again. I'm able to pull up an inch or two, and I reach checkpoint 2. Another static hold, another position where my current strength output for the row does not meet the requirements to pull me through against gravity, against the force that's working against me. So then I reassess and I adjust again. And in this case, I brought my hands closer towards my armpits to make the row easier enough to work me through the lift, but not so easy that I then fly through the concentric portion of the lift. And you keep doing that. You've got your 10 checkpoints to hit. Pull an inch, hit failure. Pull an inch, hit failure. And when I say failure, I mean that static position where you're not moving. Pull an inch, hit failure. Pull an inch, hit failure. That is what your concentric phase of a lift should look like. Eventually, you will get to that top position with, in this case, me using the platform for support to pull myself all the way up. Then we can start the lowering phase of the lift. And what I'm attempting to do here, because I know I'm stronger in the lowering portion of a lift compared to the concentric portion of a lift, is just like I did driving my hands down towards my hips in the concentric phase, is create the most difficult row variation possible for me at the start of the lowering phase, because that is when we are strongest. That is when we want to challenge the body at its most. And therefore, I extend one leg here. So I'm in this one leg long, one knee tucked kind of lever row position. I guess it doesn't really matter what it's called, but this is me working at my maximum strength capacity on the lowering phase now. And you can see that I'm fighting as hard as I can to actively pull myself up in the lowering phase. I'm not slowly lowering myself down, I'm actively pulling myself up. But gravity has more force than me in this position and therefore slowly wins the war. However, we know we want to make this lowering phase last approximately 30 seconds. So what we do is manipulate the position of the body to ensure that happens. We're working at 100% of our capacity for that 30 seconds, which means that we have to manipulate how relatively easy we make it for ourselves to hold ourselves in that position. So what you'll see me do is pike the hips, which makes it slightly easier. Eventually I bring that knee in and then bring it to the platform, and then both legs come to the platform and it eventually ends. So you can see throughout that lowering phase, I was working at 100% of my row capacity for the whole thing, actively trying to pull myself up, but gravity eventually wins the war after roughly 20 to 30 seconds. Then I'm going into rep number 3. I come back into that tuck row, try with all my might to try and get myself up. And then I know that I need a foot on the platform to get myself up through the rest of the lift. And then I'm slowly lowering myself down. I've accrued so much fatigue that that leg can't come fully out and I have to settle for that tuck row. And then eventually the rep ends. And then I think I've got maybe 1 or 2 more reps in me. So what you'll see, I've accrued so much fatigue that I need to walk the feet back. This is my new level of working at 100% capacity. You can see it in my face. That's definitely the case. I need to bring both feet down now in order to work through the rep and get myself up to that top position. I walk the feet back in order to ensure that I'm still working at 100% capacity, but I'm doing so with as much support as I need in that position. And then I start to work through the lowering phase. One knee tucked, one foot on the floor. Eventually, gravity wins the war and I finish the rep. And then I go through one more here. Now I really am fatigued, but I'm still enjoying it. So I still push through this 4th rep. I'm in a much more standard row position with feet on the floor, hips parallel to the floor. This is me working at 100% capacity still because of all the fatigue I've accrued. I get myself up to the top, and now I produce that lowering phase, trying to pull myself back up, but gravity winning the war. I try and make it as long as possible by walking the feet back. I think I do it yet one more time, walk my feet back, and then the rep eventually ends. So that's 4 reps. The whole time working at 100% capacity, but manipulating the position of my body so that I can stay in